Hi, I'm Josh. This is my buddy Chris. We're filming this issue of the Sloth Report based on elbow escaping. So the whole issue is going to be about how to elbow escape from the mount, how to angle a camera properly, and so first I wanted to explain a little bit about why I chose to make this issue about the elbow escape rather than a bump and roll or some other mount escape. I almost always teach the elbow escape first because the elbow escape, I almost always try to select my moves that I focus on based on how risky they are first. So if I do a move and I fail, how big a hole have I dug myself into? If I do an elbow escape and I mess up, usually the worst that happens is I'm on my side and maybe I get gift wrapped or they switch to that technical mount or something like that. If I do a bump and roll from the mount, the same problem happens, but my back is more exposed, there's arm bars possible. So a big reason that I choose to go for the elbow escape first is usually because it's a fairly low risk move. It's also small movements for the most part, so it's not a big dramatic movement, but it's a series of small movements which are easy to try and then back out of if you feel like they're failing. So it's low risk and it's also easy to back out of. You're only betting with a small amount of money instead of betting with your whole paycheck. Another point is that it works against people of pretty much all sizes. So I'm about 160 pounds. And I train with people a lot that are like 220, 240 pounds and fairly tall. And one of the issues that I have is with trying to bump and roll them, it can be very difficult because that's a lot of weight to move. And also, depending on how long their limbs are, it can be hard to attach myself to them properly to roll them over. Whereas with the elbow escape, I find that I can do it against people that are my size or smaller, and also against people that are much, much bigger than me. So for my body type and my size, it works against the broadest range of people. This is another reason that I select the elbow escape over other techniques on. The third reason is that the elbow escape goes right into my A game, meaning that when I elbow escape, I'm either on bottom of the half guard, which is somewhere that I'm very, very comfortable, or I get into my closed guard, which I'm very comfortable, or I can go right into a footlock position, which is somewhere that I'm very, very comfortable. If I bump and roll somebody over, I'm also comfortable inside the closed guard, but I find that against a really good closed guard player, I can get into some trouble and it can take me a while to break out of the closed guard. So when I elbow escape, I would rather go right into my A game, stuff that I'm super comfortable with and that I've developed well, rather than choosing a technique that leads me into an area where I'm weak. So variation number one of the actual elbow escape. There's two versions that I'm going to show you here based on how Chris is laying his weight. So let's say he's on top of me here. Now, number one, my top arm frames across the hip and my right foot plants on the ground. I have to angle my body to the side. So I try to turn to my side, not all the way, so that my back is exposed, but just a fraction of the way. Either anywhere from a quarter turn to a half turn. Now, at this point, if his weight is 50-50 like this, then I can do either one of these two variations that I'm going to show you. So the first one would be pushing down on his leg here, sliding my knee out, hooking the leg, and getting back into half guard. Or here, and then spinning my hips out like this. So if you put your weight a little bit forward on me, yeah, like this kind of thing. If I'm here, I can bring my hips back and get my knee across here for like a butterfly guard or for a footlock position. That's if his weight is 50-50. And I'll explain in more detail in 1 second. If I go here and his weight shifts to his left side, that makes this leg light, which is easier for me to get out. If his weight shifts to his right side to stop me from elbow escaping that way, then his left leg is loose, which allows me to go the opposite direction. So when he's on top, if he's on his knees, either his weight is going to be 50-50, or during the match, at some point it might shift
to 60-40, 70-30, etc. in favor of one leg or the other. That usually happens when somebody is fighting to keep you in their mount. And then at that point, you have to be able to feel which direction is better for you to go in. So, version number 1. So here on top. Flip it back. There's just one frame. Okay, so version number 1, I turn and I get to my side. I have to create a structure with my body so that I'm actually able to get to my side. If I'm flimsy, he'll be able to collapse me flat on my back very easily. So, I make a structure and a frame. Detail number 1, I always have to get my elbow inside of his thigh. If my elbow is outside, it becomes an easy high mount for him. And this becomes very dangerous for my top arm, and I get jammed up. So my elbow keeps his leg open so that I can elbow escape. It also prevents him from walking up high. It also allows me to push his leg down if I need to hook it for an elbow escape, or if I did need to trap it for a bump and roll. Turning to my side, framing on the hips, get my elbow inside. Version number 1, I push down on the leg, my knee is angling towards the ground, and as I push down, my leg is going to slide out, and then right away, I try to loop my leg over and hook. Now, problem number 1 is as I turn, the good half guard players are going to smash your neck and make your life miserable. So, as soon as I get out, I hook, and my arm goes right to my neck here to block the bicep, and this hand is immediately looking for an underhook. So if we turn a little bit this way. So I hook here, here, and here. Now if I wanted to continue to my half guard game, I have access to that. If I wanted to continue to close guard, I can use my elbow to open this knee up, get my knee to the sky. 9 times out of 10, people try to stuff this knee, so I have to be ready to control this arm, either under or over or grab the wrist. Scoop. If my foot gets stuck, my toes go to the ground, and I continue shrimping my hips out to the side so that my leg gets free. If I can't get my leg out and I just try to pull like this, it's going to get jammed up and I'll spend a half an hour trying to break free. So I scoot, my leg circles out, and then I can go right into my guard and my attacks. So version number 1, if he's on top again, here, my left leg is completely flat to the ground. My right foot plants, posting on his hips, and I turn. I've seen versions where people grab like this to make a total frame. That's fine, but because my forearms are a little bit shorter, when I do this, I don't feel like I can get a good elbow escape. So usually I keep a disconnected frame here so that my elbow can push against his knee rather than the inside of his thigh here. My knee points to the ground so that my knee can slide out, hook the leg, and immediately block and block or block. That's version number 1. Version number 2, if he feels me trying to do this and he shifts his weight onto this leg, it becomes hard for me to get out that way, but his left leg becomes light now. So when I feel this, my hips drive straight back, my knee comes up, and from here, if my knee is open, he can still collapse the space in between us. And it's not the end of the world, but that can become a problem. So what I would rather do is close my knee, put my foot in the hip, and control the calf so that I can begin to go into leg lock sequences, like heel hooks, straight ankle locks, or sweeps. So I try version number 1. No luck, he shifts his weight. Version number 2, I scoot my hips. I'm making a frame with both arms. My knee comes up and blocks here, so if he tries to drive into me, I have a shield. Foot goes in the hip. I make sure to control the calf with my hand so that he's not ripping out of it. Versions number 1 and 2, and they feed off each other. Give it a shot.
I'll work on it.